In this portion of lesson 6.3, we are going to divide with binomial radical expressions. We have to rationalize the denominator. In order to do that, we multiply by the conjugate of the denominator. What I mean by that, the conjugate of the denominator, the square root of 5 and the square root of 2, do not change. What does change is my minus sign becomes a plus. This is conjugates. You have a minus in one of the binomials and a plus in the other. And I'm going to multiply the denominator. If you do it to the denominator, I must also multiply the numerator. And now I have two different FOIL problems. I'm going to do the numerator first. So when I do the FOIL, the F, I'm dealing with the 3 times the radical 5. The O is 3 times the radical 2. The I, inside to inside, radical 10 times radical 5. It's negative radical 10 and 5. They're both radicals, so I'm going to bring them together, giving me negative square root of 50. This is something that I can simplify, so I'm going to go ahead and do that before I multiply my next term. 50 breaks into 25 times 2, which is 5 times 5. I have my pair of 5s, which comes to the outside, so it's now negative 5, and my 2 stays on the inside. So that I term, the inside to inside, is negative 5 square roots of 2. And then the L for my last, I'm going to take the radical 10 times radical 2. They're both radicals, so they go under the division sign. So I get negative square root of 20, which again is something that I can simplify. So I'm going to go 2 times 10, which is 2 times 5. I have my pair that comes out. So I have negative 2, and the 5 stays on the inside. So for my numerator, I'm going to bring it all together. I can add my first term, 3 radical 5 minus 2 radical 5, which gives me 1 radical 5. And then I can add my middle two terms, 3 radical 2 minus 5 radical 2. 3 minus 5 is 2 square roots of 2. So all of that was just for the numerator. We're going to do the same thing now for the denominator. I rewrote the denominator since I had scrolled down too far, I couldn't see it anymore. So let's start with the F. First times first, radical 5 twice. Remember, if you've got the same number twice, the radical cancels and you can pull that number out. The O, first one to the outside. So radical 5 times 2, which is radical 10. I, inside to inside. That's negative 2 and 5, both in the radical. So it's negative square roots of 10. And L. last term to last term. That's negative radical 2 times radical 2. It's my pair, so I'm going to pull it out. I can add the first and the last. 5 minus 2, which is 3. And the two inside terms will always cancel. That's the point of multiplying by a conjugate. We want to get rid of the radical that's in the denominator. So if you have a positive and a negative, the plus and the minus, they will always cancel out. And that's why in the conjugate, if you have a minus sign, you need to multiply by the positive. Or if you have a positive, you need to multiply by the negative. So 3 is my denominator. Let's bring our two answers together. My numerator was radical 5 minus 2 radical 2. My denominator was 3, and that is my entire answer. All right, there's one more. So why don't you go ahead and give it a try. Push pause as you work through the problem, and then come back and check your answer. This is my FOIL for the numerator. Adding terms, 2 radical 7, and the last minus 2 radical 7. 2 minus 2 is 0, so they cancel each other out. Adding my inside terms, negative 2 radical 2 plus 7. 7 minus 2 is 5 radical 2. Now for the denominator. Here's my denominator. I went ahead and rewrote it. Doing the FOIL, first times first is the pair, so you end up with 7. I had said that the middle two terms would always cancel, so there's no need to multiply them. The last term, 2 times 2, it's a pair, so it comes out. In my denominator, I end up with 7 minus 2, which is 5. So let's bring that back up to our numerator. 5 radical 2 over 5. The 5's cancel, leaving me with an answer of radical 2. The only time that you can go ahead and cancel the OI and not multiply or FOIL it is if you're dealing with a conjugate. Any other time, you need to go ahead and write out the FOIL and multiply the problem. And that concludes the rationalizing denominator portion of 6.3.